Hey guys, and welcome to episode 7 of season 2 already. I am loving this journey, and I have an awesome guest. His name is Josh on today. He's a two-time Olympian, and now he's taken the world by storm in the chiropractic world. So, how you doing today, Josh?
I'm good, thanks. I'm moving on to the next stage post athlete life. So it's a whole new grind, but similar, which I like. There was it's a lot of lessons that you could take because you feel like you started, or I did, the business kind of game later than other my colleagues who graduated, but I've been able to enjoy the process so far.
Oh, and it's great that you've been having this next progression in your life. It's exciting, but yes, I would love everyone to kind of hear about your journey. So let's dive into it. So let's talk about, you had your two-time Olympian right here with the London and Rio games, and what was that journey like at the beginning? Like what was the prep like? What was the environment like? Why don't you start with that and then we'll dive right into your profession.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, it was difficult doing both a chiropractic and competing on the world tour at the same time. But yeah, it was quite, I guess initially I started it just more maybe for selfish reasons to see how good I could be and how far I could go. That was kind of London. And then, I was contemplating, do I want to, actually start working now full on? Because, as incredible as an experience is, the Canadian athlete, as you hear, it's not the most lucrative financial industry to be in. So you're really doing it for the love of the game. But I wanted to, think about, do I want to do it again? And then I kind of realized, I spoke to some of the athletes who even won the gold medals, and after they've won that was my kind of goal. They didn't really feel like, nothing really has changed too much. I mean, when I was in Brazil, if you're Brazilian winning beach volleyball or soccer in Brazil, then that might kind of change your life if you're playing a sport that it's like a religion to you and you win the gold medal. But for Canada, I mean, maybe other than, maybe hockey or whatnot, it's different. So it was just interesting to hear those that did, win the gold medal and hit the pinnacle of the sport, and nothing really changed too much. I mean, for sure they got a little bit more, higher profile and were able to leverage that. But they were just talking about how, you know, became more of like a inspiring reason. And I was like, you know what? Yes, I'm down for that. So that's why I kind of, wanted to keep going, decided for Rio, less about, how well I could do myself and more about using my lessons and inspiring the kind of younger generation to continue that. So it kind of started off a little bit selfish reasons and then finished off selfless. So
I think that's beautiful that you kind of inspire others and build that platform not only for yourself but to motivate the future. And did you ever have a game where you were playing and you were like, you know what, this game is going towards so and so? Like did you ever have like a one of those games where it was about yourself but also someone else in your life?
yeah, totally. Great question. Well, we were the only country to have our qualifying process play one match against another Canadian team for the chance to go to Olympics. It was crazy.
Oh
So
my gosh.
you had to first get the berth for Canada. Tennis has kind of a Davis Cup, that style, like you
Yes.
play with your other, right, to get the berth for the country. So we had to do that for London and in Rio. So we played with another team. The top two teams in the country got nominated to go to a world event, and then you're playing, with your other, country a team to get the berth for Canada. And then if you did get that, which we did, then you come back to Canada and you play one match against each other. So you were going from working with each other to against each other, and whoever won that one match go to Olympics, and the other one doesn't. It was insane.
Oh.
So yeah, those two matches, all my family, my friends, my current wife now, but she was at the time wasn't, but I knew she would be at that time. So yeah, it was. I'm just looking across the net, and we actually were losing in the extra tiebreak set of the one to go to Rio, and I was just, I was exhausted, and I was like, this is not looking good. Things weren't going well, and then it was just that switch. I called the timeout late in the match, and then just looked across the net, and I was like, no, no, look at all the people that I love that are love me are here. And one, I'll just never hear the end of it if I lose.
Yeah, I
Probably
was
they
gonna
would love me no
say.
matter what. Yeah, yeah, they'd love me no matter what. But I was like, I don't want to deal with that. Oh, too bad. We still love you. Yeah, yeah. I was like, I know you do, guys, but still. So
Yes.
that kind of just fired me up to dig deep and find that little extra push to persevere. So we came back and ended up winning.
Oh, I love that story because that's amazing because I so agree because when you don't hit that game winner or when you don't win that match, you don't hear
Yeah,
the end of it. It's not a pleasant car ride home or a
totally.
family
Yeah,
dinner,
exactly.
that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for weeks on end. And then when the Olympics would come on, it'd be like, oh, that should be you there. So I just knew
Yeah.
it would be never ending.
I know. It's like, oh, look at that Olympic tire, like why
Yeah,
can't you have that gear on right now? But oh,
yeah, exactly.
I totally
Yeah.
get it. That's beautiful. But so when you're going through that whole experience, how did you maintain such a good headspace? Like how did you keep that up through the game?
There's, you know what, experience. There's no shortcut to that. I wish I did when I first started playing. I was like, nah, I'm gonna just win right off the bat, you know. And then I realized watching that Jordan documentary, funny enough, I was like, he even lost, which I didn't
Yes.
realize. You know, we just knew he was the best ever. And seeing that behind the scenes, it was so cool. I was like, wow. So just you just can't, yeah, experience. You learn to be resilient and how to be optimistic when you're down. That's the toughest part. It's so easy to be optimistic when you're up and winning, but how do you turn it around? So I've been on both sides where I've been up, lost it, down, won. So I just knew it was possible, and I was just looking for that kind of one little spark where the opponent is starting to the chink in the armor starts coming off, and they were bulletproof the whole time, and you're like, I just need that little crack, and then I could chip away at it because I've seen it and been there. So yeah, you kind of just have to stay optimistic in times of duress. So that's kind of what I focused on.
I love it. You need like that balance during the game. You gotta have your headspace and you gotta like do you have like certain songs that you always listen to when you were athlete? Like was there like this is my game, game music or whatever it was?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. No, not really. What was the Eminem one? You know, the pump it up.
oh
This is your moment to lose it. You never let it go.
yes. But know what? That's what honestly I
Going.
appreciate about you because when I had the chance to work with you in Israel when you were a coach for volleyball, you could
Mm.
almost see so many good traits of what you built as an athlete to really give back to that team. And I think that was such an incredible journey too, because, it definitely, I'm sure, taught you so much patience, more than you
Yeah,
probably thought you had. And,
totally.
like getting them in the mind space and all that stuff. I think it was a really cool thing to watch you do because, I've seen you be an athlete. So that's also a really cool kind of mix. What was that like for you, going to Israel instead of being an athlete that time, going and being a coach for them and trying to inspire them as athletes.
Yeah, totally different. First time I've ever coached like that. So
You killed it.
you really,
You did well, I
oh
promise.
man. You know what's funny too? When I watch these guys, and it's great for them and for it. Um, we're watching, I think, the match before, and the team that is about to win, and if they do win, we get automatic berth to the gold medal match. They were up 2-0. They end up losing it. The momentum. It's crazy in sports, right? And the same thing with us. We come out, we are up 2-0 early, and the guys lose in the fifth. And you just can't help them in terms of you can give them execution and technical, and you can try to call a timeout and affect the momentum. But when it comes down to it, you can't affect how they are in their mind in terms of their willingness to go for it under pressure, how to play to win, not to play to not lose. There was a reason when, oh, we're just starting the game, I'm going to play free and be calm but assertive. And as soon as the game gets tight, people change, right? So
Oh yeah.
it was tough because I was like, guys, I know what's going on. I've been there, but it was fun though, and then they'll be better off for it. So I can't wait to hopefully get a chance to coach them again in the future.
Oh yeah, I know. Fingers crossed. It's next year, right? 2021, I think, is
Well,
when
they
the next
pushed it
games.
back
They push
to
it
after the
back.
Olympics. So yeah,
Okay, so
so
another
one more year
one more
after the
year.
Olympics. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Close, close. So far, but so
Yeah,
close.
yeah.
So, with having that under your belt now, with the transition into going into now a therapeutic point of view, so working with athletes as well, I'm sure as the general public, what has been the best part of that transition thus far from accepting the next change in your life?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I kind of started late, so I just tried to apply what I learned to my, clinical business and skills. Um, because, as an athlete, you're just, your goal, you're trying to achieve a goal, and or especially representing your country, it's like the pinnacle of your sport. And while you're pursuing excellence of any stage, whether it's Olympics or just, a youth level club trying to get better, you no matter if you're amateur athlete or pro, you have to live by that, saying of whatever, shoot for the moon, or if you miss, land on the stars or something. I think that's the one, right? Or you pretty much
It's
if you
close.
miss,
It's close.
yeah, that's like Bush when you try to say shame on me, or fool me what.
Oh, I know.
He's like,
Fool
you know
me
what I
once,
mean?
shame on
Yeah, he
you.
messes it
Yes.
up. Everybody knew what he was talking about. It's the same this one, right? You shoot for the moon, you miss, you land on the stars. So it's like you're still going to be achieving something pretty great, no matter whether you reach your goal or not. Um, so I've applied that to kind of my clinical practice, and it's just the same thing. It's like a daily pursuit, because that's another quality that's helped myself and my two business partners, who are also pro athletes of theirs. Emma was a Canadian world champion rower, and Josip was a pro soccer player. So I just find that with athletes, they don't really complain about that kind of daily push and grind to the excellence, because they just know that's just what it takes to get there. And they've dealt with
Hmm.
adversity on their way to their goals. So, instead of, when they make a mistake, like, instead of getting emotional about it, we kind of, whether it's athletic or business, you kind of just have to stay objective and make those necessary adjustments to succeed. So, like, myself, I wasn't
Absolutely.
the most organized person, I would say, and planned in general, but I feel like I was like relentless on execution. So, of course, I try to be as organized as possible and create game plans, athletically and business wise. However, as all athletes know, the games don't always go according to your game plan. So,
Yeah.
when that happens, and just like in business, you have to find a way to adapt and execute and win. So I found that starting a practice from scratch is pretty similar. We created a game plan based on our vision and how we wanted things to unfold. But you have to keep constantly tweaking the game plan, and on your road to find success. And that obviously relates to anything, from choosing your clinical staff team to your admin, your front desk. I mean, hiring a brand or
Hmm.
marketing company, building your culture there, like business development, patient experience, like the operations, all that stuff. So
Oh,
um,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's honestly, that's the thing that I think people forget so much when it comes to the business part, because it's like our hands are amazing and we know that we know what we're doing, but it's the other half that people tend to forget about, like the promotions part. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, like your staff sounds incredible. So, having that behind you is an incredible forefront for the future for your business, but also just trying to maintain the business, having that front door entrance, admin being great and energetic and happy to have clients in. It's such a system that you really have to adapt to, and hopefully, find the right people that will be part of that journey with you 100%. What has
Yeah.
it been like so far?
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you said. So knowing, where your strengths and weaknesses are, and similar to athletics, like with the business, you kind of, you have to find your support team, and like happening, when you're an athlete, you have your technical coach, you have your mentor coach, you have your stats person, someone who's done what you're trying to do. And like I said, there's no shortcut around experience. So same for the business and the clinic side, like regarding surrounding yourself with a team where everybody has a different, individual role and strength, but all those individual roles and strengths all contribute to one, achieving the same common goal. So I had to, apply that same principle.
Yes, and sometimes it's not easy.
Hmm.
It's definitely a
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah, we're learning that as I go.
Yes. Have you had a pretty, like, how do you find the new athletes adapting to therapy that you're doing? For example, like, do you find they're pretty alert and wanting to learn what you're kind of giving them with experience plus the actual therapy?
Yeah, a little bit of both. It depends on, one, I kind of just start by speaking to them about my experience and that I can relate. So, that they should have a therapeutic mindset themselves. Like, I kind of tell them that they should treat themselves like they're an Olympian or a professional athlete, whether they're pursuing
Mhm.
athletic excellence, or if they're not even not an athletic individual at all, but they love kind of, feeling like that. They are, because once, they hear that I've experienced what they're going through, then I found it's worked that they can kind of buy in more. And it's because I'm not only speaking from whatever scientific or theoretical perspective, it's more practical. So, um, and then once they kind of buy and have that mindset, then I try to, just apply the standards that I kept to myself as an athlete to improve patient care. Because, it's like you said, it's not just the actual hands-on part; it's the whole experience for themselves, right?
Yes.
So, and for us, like, we're not really in a high traffic area, so really most, if not all, of our patients have come from referrals. So knowing that, we really work hard. We have to, pride ourselves on quality patient experience overall to continue receiving those referrals because, like I said, we're not in like a medical doctor building or in a financial
Mm-hmm.
district or, places where there's a lot of traffic. So kind of like similar how, winning championships in athletics comes down to doing the little things right, the intangible things like, all those things that go unnoticed, right, to the untrained eye. The same I've found, at least, to applies to clinical success because like not only do you have to provide like high quality effective treatment for sure, but it's the little things like that they appreciate, like educating them on what their issue is, or
Yes.
like, or
Yes.
how they got it, or a theory of like why the treatment plan should even help in the first place, or what to expect. Because sometimes, I remember I got soft tissue treated on me when I first started getting treated, and it was like so sore the next day, and then after it's fine. But that's kind of part of it, right? So if you give them a heads
Yeah.
up, a lot of patients that I treat, they weren't told that. And then if you give them a heads up, or acupuncture, be like, hey, a little sore here, but you should have more range and more function, and then so little things that and communication, because it's so essential with their referring professional, not only with the patient but with the doctor as well, or whoever did refer them, because then the more I've been able to communicate with that referring professional or surgeon or whoever's referring that person, the more comfortable they'll feel continuing to refer
Oh,
patients.
big
So
time.
yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, and referrals is honestly everything. I get that question, and I'm sure you do too, is, how do you build your business? What is the tips and tricks to, get that business started? It is all referrals.
Yeah.
That is probably the biggest thing that like I can honestly say was the most effective, is that if you are confident within your practice and you know what you're doing, and you have that environment where people want to come in and they want to learn and they want to be educated on top of getting therapy, then people are more prone to refer and build that clientele up. And it's a lot easier than I thought it was once
Hmm.
you really start that kind of campaign style.
Yeah.
And it really does speak volumes, because I'm sure you've had therapists come and treat you before,
Hmm.
and you're like, wow, that was awful. Like,
Yeah.
or like, why are you treating this? And it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
because this is tight or whatever. So it's so nice to have an understanding with you that you do that too. That's so important.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed.
So what is like one thing since you've started being a therapist that has really excelled your career other than with referrals? Like, is there new modalities that you're slowly starting to learn, or what has really helped you kind of go through that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I did actually learn acupuncture this past year, so that helped with patient outcomes. Because I mean, myself, I was a big fan of it, receiving it, and I found that it kind of just has a little bit longer of a lasting effect. Now, mind you, it's more intense when you're getting it, so it's kind of the trade-off. You're like, okay, it helps more and it's last longing, but man, it's not the most comfortable. So you got to be careful with who you do, and
Oh
a lot of the
yeah.
younger
When you get
athletes.
the stims on there?
Yeah, yeah, that gets intense for them. So
Oh, I know.
you got to go slow and gentle at first.
Yeah. Well, especially trying to convince them.
Yeah, yeah, because they hear needles and they're
It's
like,
true.
ah, no,
It's
no
so
chance.
true.
Right. But yeah, I would say that that helped a lot.
Well, it's surprising how effective they are, though. That's the thing that baffles me the most, is that I've had the homeopathic style, I've had the Chinese medicine, and both of them have different effects depending on how they put them in and whichever and how thick they are, because fun fact, they're not all the same
Hmm.
size.
Yeah.
That was a wake-up call. Uh
Right. Right. Yep.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
um oh
Yeah. So
man.
that definitely changes things.
Oh, it does. Oh, it
So
does. When you
funny.
see it, you're like, okay, that's not what I had last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly. I know what's
that's
going on here. I know the
yeah.
deal.
I didn't ask for this. And then they put the stem on, and oh my God. It's
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's
That
an
just takes it to
adventure.
the next level.
Yeah, but you're right though. It is very effective. Yeah, if you breathe through it, you're fine.
Yeah. It's just kind of affects the nervous system. Kind of. I found, because you can really, like you said, once you put the stem down, it's one thing to affect the muscles, but if you can actually, manipulate kind of the neurological input, then that's why I found is the longer lasting effect because of that.
You find that there's certain sports that are most commonly coming in for therapy? Like, do you find a trend with your athletes of what kind they are?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm kind of the go-to volleyball person, so that's first and foremost, of course. But I also grew up playing hockey and baseball, and baseball is a pretty similar swing to volleyball. So I treat a lot of those athletes as well because they feel comfortable knowing that I understand the biomechanics of their sports and the types of loads their tissues are under. So, and even during treatment, I'll kind of talk to them about whatever academic, excellence or managing both, or just kind of like stuff that they can do off the court to increase their performance more like in spiritual stuff and mental, because I do a lot of like mentor psychological training with athletes now
Oh,
with
wow.
COVID. They couldn't really train that much, and I just kind of saw that there was a lack for. Well, I find at least in volleyball too, like a lot of the athletes really aren't taught the tactical and psychological, like volleyball IQ parts. So they're just taught like technical and physical, which is important. But like really in the
Mm-hmm.
end of the game, I mean, they all know what it's like when they're in practice or in pool play. They're all amazing. And then it comes down to 13-all in the playoffs and they play a little different. So I really enjoyed getting into the deeper psyche with these athletes and kind of teaching them things that I learned late that they can apply. And I've been able to also incorporate that with video analysis because I find that they weren't really taught that either in terms of how to watch video or one of themselves. Because you know how it is when you're playing and your coach says do this, you think you're doing it, you're like I am, and then you look back at the video and you're like, oh, okay, you don't have that objective perspective, right? So when you're able to look at
Mm-hmm.
yourself with video, you can kind of really actually change your style and increase your technical skills. But then also, I found that they weren't really taught how to watch video of opponents you're about to play, and then how to create a game plan based on that. So knowing their tendencies and knowing what kind of plays are their go-to shots, or if they're under pressure, what they're going to do. Like the athletes, I find at least not till the national levels are taught that. So if I can teach kind of the up and coming club youth athletes before they get to that level, then they can kind of have a competitive advantage. And that stuff you can't really learn unless you kind of did it yourself. So that was one thing that I really
Mm-hmm.
focused on because my game wasn't all about the physical because I blew my shoulder out. So I couldn't really hit too hard. And I was like, okay, how am I going to stay successful? So I had to think about things like vision and, the poise and being more resilient and the tactical strategies and all those kind of intangible skills. So I've been doing a little bit of that lately and really enjoying it.
That's awesome. And I'm sure they appreciate it too, because that's exactly what we were talking about before is the fact that there's so many things now versus when we were athletes that it was, I wish that there was more education in, that the self-care aspect or, like why weren't foam rollers invented like
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah,
like there's so many
exactly.
things that like athletes are so much more educated on. And, even in our therapy wise, it's hard because, you know, now they're starting to get people coming into the schools and educating them on, okay, if you graduate, these are the options and these are the opportunities that you can have and these are the links that you can go to or these are the people you can connect with. And tell me about your experience so far with your schools and business and organization and presentations, because I think that is wicked.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing too, kind of with the corporate speaking. I'm thinking like, how am I going to go in there and speak to these, financial advisors about, the corporate world? I don't know anything about it, but they really, they don't want to hear about that. They kind of want to hear about the experience of what it's like and how I
Mm-hmm.
kind of applied those team aspects to what they kind of go. So I don't really have to actually speak to the actual industry itself. It's more about how to get the most out of your team. Like how do you keep someone accountable but not make it personal? You got to know the buttons to push for each person. Some rely or respond better to intense challenge. Some you can't. You just got to keep pumping them up even if they're making mistakes or whatever. So you got to find what works. And especially beach taught me that too because it's just you two. So you don't really have much time to. It's not like a whole team where you can be like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that well, give the ball to somebody else or sub me out. Like with beach volleyball, there is none. You're not doing well and they're coming after you. You can't get off the court, and your partner is your only person that can support you. So, I
Yep.
found that, yes, like, it's definitely important to have a plan. But for me, I just for my teammates, and so I speak about the corporate, leaders. That leadership is about the effort and execution and just passion from the team, right? Because I felt like real leadership isn't just like demanding something from your teammates or coworkers or whatever. It's kind of seeing it deep inside people to hold themselves to like a higher standard, one person at a time. And then I feel like that's how you build a winning team and business culture.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that I really find is beautiful when you can blend sports with professions, because it really is the same thing, like you said, like the leadership, holding people accountable, like being on time. Like
Yeah, right.
that can't be better for business, you know? So I
Yeah,
think it's great that we start so young doing sports, because there's so much more to sports than just the sport. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
So
totally. There's so many
it's
lessons.
yes, and that's the thing that I think is so hard during this COVID, because kids aren't getting that activity. They're not getting that outdoor play and all that stuff. And I think that is such a huge component of growth in a person, to build them in the future of all
Right.
those knowledgeable experiences, right? So it's yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, and so
it's
that I've kind of also taught them too, that because they're all rattled. I mean, now they're playing again. Might, as of what's going on, it might get shut down again, but they're off for a few months. And of course, they're super upset for the reasons you just said, because they're lacking all that. So I try to give them the perspective of, and another thing they're not really taught, I don't think, is how to visualize properly. So that's another thing. I'm like, guys, okay, I know, I know it sucks that you're not playing, but it, I went through this. It was even worse because I was injured for a year and a half. So I was off for a year and a half, not playing, lose my mind while all my friends were still playing. Then I'm expected to somehow come back to being off that long and not only, compete with them, but like win. Like I want to, still pursue my excellence and go to the Olympics. So at least you guys now, everybody's off. So you can actually take this time to learn how to really visualize properly and then use that competitive advantage when you get back, because you'd be surprised that you don't lose it as much as you would think if you actually properly kind of see it in your mind. Because I think a lot of them thought, the way you're supposed to feel good about yourself and you optimistic and confident is cause and effect, where you need to do something well before you feel good. But really, I'm telling them, I'm like, no, that's the old school way. Like, you have to, the new epigenetic model or whatever, call it quantum or whatever, like the secret or whatever it is, like you have to put that
Yep.
out there in the energy, and you actually have to believe that it's happened before. So I pretty much, the question is like, can you believe in a future that you can't experience or you haven't experienced with your senses yet, but you thought about it enough, or your brain, like, the subconscious part actually looks like it's already occurred. Because before we knew about it, visualization and then all and mental imagery, we knew it worked. We kind of just didn't know why, um, but now there's science. So it's like, if you guys
Yeah.
need the objective data, fine, it's there. It's like really the old model, like I said, of cause and effect is waiting for something to happen outside of you to change the way you feel inside. But no, the new, well, not even new that much, but the quantum or the energy of the frequency or however you want to call it, is that you got to teach your body how you're going to feel once you achieve whatever it is. So you have to feel it before it actually happens and manifests. So they can't really define reality with like their senses. They, not waiting for something outside to change how you feel inside. So as long as they can kind of
Mm.
buy into that, it might help.
And how do you find that? Like, do you find that they're very receptive to that?
Initially, no, especially at that age, right? They're like, "What? I can't. There's not tangible. I can't feel the difference. I can't see it."
Mm-hmm.
And they won't. They won't until they get into training again or some competition again. So it's hard to buy in. Plus, it's a tough skill. Like sitting there and meditating. Like they're, everybody's got ADD these days, or there's no like the attention span's so small, especially with social media. So
Oh
they
my
can't just sit
gosh.
there and visualize 10
Totally.
minutes. They'll be gone in 30 seconds. And then when it's hard, they'll be like, oh, this is annoying. And next, but so,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody's into it, but all I can do is tell them how effective it is. And if they, I find the ones that are truly motivated, innerly inside motivated to do well, they'll give it a shot. And because they're looking for the extra push. So yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on the motivation factor of the athlete.
But it's true though, because when I did a OWHA camp, one of the coaches was actually doing exactly that. And before we would go into a game or before we go into a practice, he would actually have us all sit and we would focus on a spot on the floor. Obviously, like everyone has different spots, but we would all focus on the spot
Yeah.
and we would start with, say, 4 minutes, and no one can't say anything. You just focus on your breathing, you focus on that spot, isolate your brain to think about more of the positivity versus the negativity, or just simply clearing the mind of things that you're overthinking about for that practice or game, and see if you can isolate your feelings. And it was
Right.
incredible, because the first couple times people were surprised how fast, like, or how slow, sorry, the time went. And then as we progressively did it and people were being more open to it, the time flew by. And it was amazing to see how more receptive they were by the end of the camp to understand how to connect with themselves spiritually, mentally, and then go and do the game. Because I don't think, I mean, like you watch Serena Williams for for example, like there's certain people who have such a great mindset and such great energy, but there's so many things
Yeah,
that are difficult to maintain if the mindset's off. And you can see that. You can see it in athletes who
right.
are frustrated or aggravated. So it's beautiful to teach people that, because then they can actually apply it for all of their life, which is incredible. That's awesome you do that.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's fun seeing people kind of dive into that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hopefully one day everyone will and they'll
Yeah,
understand it
I
better.
doubt it, but
You got to be
whoever does
optimistic.
will reap the benefits.
I know, it's true. So what's next for you? Like what's your next vision?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the next goal is, well, continuing. I am living the next goal, I would say,
I was
kind
gonna
of
say you're
just,
living your life right
yeah,
now.
yeah. This is the next part of just trying to be the best practitioner I can be. The best business owner, and also the, I guess, mentor. I was going to say that the Binstock angle, so to speak. That's where I
Oh
was.
yes, the
Yes,
Binstock.
right. Yeah, that's the Olympic angle experience, kind of just helping mentor athletes, and the angle from the psychological, tactical angle, and also the technical angle as well. So that's pretty new. So I'm enjoying. I haven't really. I know I had a mentor when I was younger, and it inspired me to try to pursue excellence. So that's kind of the next, I guess, goal for me, is try to reach as many athletes as I can, with the time I have, because it's not like it's not like I'm scaling it in terms of having one webinar, which provincial team did, and then a lot of athletes could come on, and you're speaking about mental toughness or a topic, but I found that maybe athletes weren't really that open and honest, because so many other athletes were on the call. When you're talking about mindset
Mm,
topics like vulnerability, or cultivating resilience, fear of failure, all those things, the athletes are not going to want to be as on it, as open, if they don't know the other person that's on there, or if they're potential opponents. So I've kind of done more of a private, semi-private. So it's either I work one-on-one with the athlete, or a group of two or three, but they're all comfortable with each other. They're all friends, and they don't mind being open and honest and vulnerable with each other. So yeah, it's been a fun process. I'm kind of looking to continue that, and chiropractic.
a nice combo. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I honestly, I love that, because it is so inspiring for others to know that you are willing to do that, because we live in a world that is very 50-50. Some people are very much willing to share their journey, talk about it, educate people, inspire people. And also some people had a really tough journey, so they're not also willing to talk about it or express that situation, like they're unfortunately are athletes who can never come back to the games or whichever it is. And I think it's so great the angle that you're taking, because
Yeah, I
it's
like it.
it's awesome. And I think I hope and I pray that so many people are following through and watching it. And is it on your, I think it's on your Instagram, right? You post it.
Yep, I did. I got to get better with the posting as well, but yeah, I did. I think it's the Binstock angle is the handle, and then you can kind of get it through my regular Instagram, which is Dr. Josh Binstock.
Perfect. Okay,
Hmm.
I love it. All right,
Yeah.
so do you have, ending on a really super positive note, do you have anything um that can help people feel inspired or want to be an entrepreneur and go through this journey?
Well, it's exciting. You can either choose the safe. Um, it's kind of like athletics. Like, you can be, play to not lose, so you might not win, but you won't get last. you know, or you take risks and you play to win, and you either hit the ball way out of the stadium, or it's straight down kill. But I mean, at the highest level, you kind of have to take those risks, and it's kind of exhilarating to put yourself out there into the unknown. And then you kind of, when you go into the unknown, that's where the change and manifest happens, because you kind of have to keep adapting, because most people always define themselves from like a memory of the past experiences, so they're kind of like apprehensive. They don't define themselves from what the future could hold, because that's unknown, and that's scary. We've been
Mm,
we conditioned to think the unknown is scary, but like I said, that place of unfamiliarity is where all that change happens. So we kind of should aim, I feel, to be comfortable with that uncomfortable and the unknown. So
yes.
yeah, that's kind of what I like about the entrepreneurial ship.
Yes, I have to say, honestly, I always say that to people. I say you have to experience the uncomfortable stage to become comfortable. And it is uncomfortable to go there, but when you
Mm,
do and you realize what is the endless possibilities that you can do, it's a beautiful adventure. It really is. And if you're in for the ride, it is totally worth
right.
it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
That's amazing. So, if people want to get a hold of you, to ask you questions or anything like that, is the best way to get to you on your Instagram page, or what works best
Yep.
for you?
Yeah, that works. So like I said, Dr. Josh Binstock, DM. I got to still or the Binstock angle, or email joshua.binstock@olympian.org. So any of those. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, I'd be happy to connect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you from all of us. Thank you. I appreciate you so much for coming on here and inspiring so many other people, because you have such an incredible story and I truly appreciate you. And
My pleasure, Linz.
I I cannot wait to go to the games, cross my fingers in a few years, and who
I
knows, maybe we'll do
know.
volleyball again.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I hope that works like that.
I know, fingers crossed. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. All the best. See you next time.